Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Pendleton's February Planning Commission meeting. If I could have a roll call, please. We do have one member online.
Andrew Holloway.
Jenny Sisson.
Kyle Icorn.
Tim Pritchard.
Carol Hannah.
Carol's on it. Thank you, Carol. So we do have a quorum. If I could ask the commission to review the minutes submitted from the tablets, I entertain a motion to accept. All correct.
The minutes in the folder.
The draft. Now we can go on and put it in. Put it out in there.
We'll come back to load one.
Yeah, I mean, I can go pop in quick.
We'll move on and we'll get them later. No big deal. Okay. All right. They're gonna load the minutes for us to look at later. Okay. Move on to old business. This is petition 2023-1 DR Horton and Urbans development along 600 South. They were at the January meeting, a presentation there. We asked for some corrections and additions and questions to be answered, so. You want to let them go first? You got anything?
No, since it's continued, I'll just turn it over to Mr. Brian Tui, who's representing the petition, and then we'll go to staff analysis when he's done. If you want to do questions or analysis with him, or we can do it the other way. It's up to you.
Go, Brian.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Planning Commission. As I said, I'm Brian Tui. My address is 50 South Meridian. I represent the petitioner DR Horton, and here with me tonight from DR Horton is Lee Phillips and Gordon Kreitz, our civil engineer from Stuppleworth. And first off, thank you for hearing our case. I'm going to try to move into the middle of it since most of you've heard what this started off as back in November and in January. We've made some changes to our plan, and that's what I'll try to focus on. But just to sort of reset the table, this is a request to rezone 98 acres from A1 to SF3 to allow for a single family residential subdivision neighborhood to be built on the site. And again, just to be reacquainted here, the site is just south of 38. It's just east of County Road 600 West, as shown there on the side on the exhibit. It's west of Interstate 69. So around it to the west is 600, and then our neighbors, the Fosters, I'll call them the Fosters neighborhoods, are right there. Then to our east is the Bain Wilker, kind of a farm implement store. Then the Mystic Waters Campground, Interstate 69, and then the development that you would see, Tractor Supply, Wolfies, etc. over there on the Interstate of 69. Will this move the slides? Hannah?
No.
Oh, thank you.
We've tried.
Okay, great. You're doing great. So
Points though.
the site's is zoned, it was zoned PUD, and you can see the surrounding zoning is off to the west. That's the left. It's got County R2, SF1. Then right on our eastern border, there's general business where you'd see that's where the Bain Welker is. Then you've got some A1 that's undeveloped. I think it's for sale. There's a sign that says for sale. Then you get to the GB where the Mystic Waters is. So it's kind of an infill site because it's between County Road 600 and Interstate 69 and on the south side of 38. My suspicion is that sometime over the years, that'll sort of fill in. Next slide, please. We've changed our plan. We've worked a lot with Hannah Rose and other members of the town's planning staff, and we've greatly appreciated their input in this. And I'll get into the details of how we've changed it, but this is sort of superimposed over the site. And the first change that we did is we dropped the number of lots. There was 213 when I was here last. Originally, there was, I think, in the 220s or 240s. But when I made this presentation before, there was 213, and now there's 200 lots. We've also changed from just having two sizes of lots. When I was with you before, we had 100-foot wide lots. We called them our executive series along 600. And then the rest of the community was 60-foot wide lots. After listening to our neighbors and planning staff, we now have three sizes of lots. We have 100-foot wide lots here, 11 of them along County Road 600. Then before we had 36 lots up here that were 60 feet wide. That number has now been dropped to 29 lots, and those lots are 80 feet wide. The other significant change is we had in this area right here, we had a detention pond that encroached into that wooded area. We've moved that detention pond into the center of the site. So now this wooded area is going to in large part stay intact. Sure, there'll be some work in there with utilities and things like that. I think your requirements are we'll have to put a sidewalk along 600. We're fine with that. But in large part, that wooded area that we thought before was about 10 acres turns out to actually be about 11 acres. And the homes that are the 60-foot wide lots will be behind the homes with the 100-foot lots and with the 80-foot lots. We've also increased the green area. Part of that's, I think, a function of reducing the number of lots. But in addition to that wooded area, there's about 24 acres of green area throughout the site, including the pond area. We also reduced the number of ponds from, I think, 5 ponds to 2 ponds. The next slide, please. So this just is a little tighter in shot. Again, 200 lots. I think that density comes up to right at 2 homes per acre. These are the 80-foot lots, larger lots up here next to our entrance. These lots are the 100-foot wide lots. And one thing I would ask the Plan Commission to note is that these 11 lots don't have 11 driveways out onto 600. Our plan is to just have 2 entrance points, one here and one here. And none of these lots in here would have access out there. This would only be emergency access for the town's emergency vehicles. And however the town tells us to shut that off with bollards or safety gates or whatever, we'll do that. And these folks will just use this entrance here and this entrance here to access 600. I think that means that the traffic coming past this area here will be pretty minimal because there's only going to be 11 lots that would be south of that area. Next slide, please. So here's the comparison of the two. We had the pond in here. We had more lots up in this area near 600. And we've changed that to as I described. Another feature of this change, what occurred is there's now about 1,360 feet of area between our entrance here off of 600 and where our executive lots start. I think that's about 5 football fields. And my point about that is, and I have another exhibit will show that, is a large part of 600 on the west side is going to stay a green area. And also, these homes are set back a fair distance from 600. The actual homes on these lots and these lots will be somewhere between 115 and 120 feet back behind from the edge of pavement of 600. And in front of these homes here, that is our homes that are closest to our neighbors on 600, we show a 40-foot wide buffer area that'll have a mound running through it north to south. It'll be 4 feet to 6 feet tall. And every 100 feet, it will have, I think, 5 shade trees and 10 evergreen trees and 25 shrubs. So there'll be an undulating mound here and up here screening our homes in our neighborhood from 600 that runs quite a distance, as I said, about 1,300 feet. Next slide, please, Sam. Just a summary of what I just covered. We went from 213 lots to 200 lots. Our wooded area, it didn't grow. We just didn't have to encroach as much. So we think it went from about 10 acres to 11 acres. We went from 2 sizes of lots to 3 sizes of lots. We've moved our pond out of the wooded area And in the northwest corner of the site near 600, we've reduced it from 36 lots to 29 lots, and those lots will be the wider 80-foot lots. Next slide, please. Before we were here, I think we had about a dozen, maybe a few more commitments, proposed commitments. Tonight, we've submitted 24 commitments, and I'll start with the executive homes commitments. So the commitments deal with architectural standards of the homes in this area and in the areas behind the wooded area. And so these are the homes that these are characters of the homes that we would build on the executive 11 lots that would face 600. These homes would be brick or masonry on all four sides of the first floor. They would not have front-facing garage doors. They would be similar to these. They'd be built like these. There would be no vinyl siding on any homes in the entire subdivision. Not there's anything wrong with vinyl siding, but that was a request, and Horton is fine with that. We estimate that these homes would sell somewhere between $550,000 and $700,000. They would be sized, minimum sized, that the smallest homes, ranch homes or 1.5-story homes, would be 2,500 square feet. And these 2-story homes would be a minimum of 3,500 square feet. And next slide, please. These homes, if Horton doesn't build them, in our commitment, we've asked for the right to sell these lots to custom builders. These custom builders would have to build homes of similar characteristics, and they would have to have the same standards that I just went over in terms of size, exterior materials. There's commitments about width of the eaves and things like that. The homes would have to be built to those standards. If they wanted to deviate substantially from these characteristics as we've shown, then they'd have to go to your planning director and get approval for a deviated plan. But I think that assures that along 600 facing our Foster neighbor, these are going to be homes that are going to be more than $500,000 to $700,000, and they're going to look similar to these renderings here. Next slide, please. In the other areas, there are homes would be a minimum of 1,600 square feet for ranches and 2,200 square feet, I believe, for 2 stories. And we expect those homes, 2,200 square feet. Yes, 2,200 square feet for 2 stories. We expect these homes to sell for somewhere at the starting end of about $370,000, because that's close to the average sales price of another community here in town. And they would go up to, on the bigger lots, on the 80-foot lots, perhaps almost up to just under $500,000. These homes would also not have any vinyl, and at least half of them would have a brick component on the first floor, on at least half of the frontage of the homes. But the rest of the homes could be built with dimensional shingles. They might be built with stone. They might be built with shake siding. They might be built with hardy plank. But we have architectural standards in these homes also. Next slide, please. And those homes are the ones that would be on these lots here and these lots here, again, behind the wooded area and behind the executive lots. They also would have concrete driveways. Those driveways would be a minimum of 26 feet long to address concerns about parking out into the street. Next slide, please. So in large part, members of the Planning Commission, we believe that will remain intact, not completely intact, because, as I said, there's going to be a sidewalk I think we have to install along here. There may be some utilities that have to come through here. But we think this is either a terrific amenity for the town of Pendleton, if they want to take it as a public park, or it's a wonderful amenity for our neighborhood. And we are fine either way. We've talked to the Parks Department. They've indicated that this is an area of the community they'd like to have a park. I think they like the size of this. But if they don't take it, we have a commitment that it will not be developed and left in a wooded state. It'll be maintained by the homeowners association. We would put some walking paths through there because we think that would be a terrific amenity either for our neighborhood or for the community at large. Next slide, please. I asked our architect, our engineer, Gordon, to prepare this so that the plan commission and our neighbors could get a feel for what this different layout that we're presenting tonight would look like behind that wooded area. And as you can see here, so these are the wider lots all on this side of that spine road. These are the not as wide lots here. Here's our pond relocated, or down here in the center. Here's that emergency access here. And then over here to the right would be those estate lots. We put a placeholder in here for a small parking area. If the town wanted to take it as a park, it could go up here. It could go in a number of different places. We just put it here to show that there was room for a parking area. The next slide, please. And this is just taking a little further out view, the same aerial, just to keep everybody aware of what, here's our foster neighbors here. Here's that wooded area, State Road 38, Bain Welker, Interstate 69. And next slide, please. This again is a further out view, but it emphasizes that there's that 115 feet of depth between those houses and 600. Here's this area that I referred to that's about 1,600 feet long, that there's no houses in this area. And the houses that are up in this area are set back again 115 to 120 feet. And this shows that this is just an emergency access. So none of these lots here would have access out into 600. Their access is here and here. And next slide, please. We've also created a number of buffers, and along State Road 38, that buffer will be about 80 feet wide. And in that buffer, there will be that 4 to 6 foot mound. There'll be 10 shade trees, 20 evergreen trees, and 50 shrubs. And that will be every 100 feet of that buffer that will be planted. Those would all be maintained by the homeowners association. Along 600, where most of our neighbors are, there's 40 feet of width in that buffer, 4 to 6 feet tall, 5 shade trees, 10 evergreen trees, 25 shrubs every 100 feet along that mound along this area here. And then a similar buffer along here and along here and along the south property lines. The south property lines are actually quite a bit larger than that, and that area will remain intact other than that pond. The next slide, please. This shows what the County Road 600 buffer would look like. I don't want to represent to the Plan Commission or to our neighbors. It won't look like that on day one, of course, but there will be that mound. There will be those plantings of the shade trees, the 5 shade trees, the 10 evergreen trees, and the 25 shrubs. And that's this area right here. Again, there's quite a bit of depth back to those executive style homes. Next slide, please. This shows along State Road 38. That's that 80 foot wide buffer up in here. Next slide, please. There was a number of questions about how a lot might look. And so we asked Gordon to put a home on a lot. So this would be the frontage along 600. Our neighbors over here, this is the Foster Branch neighbors over here. So you've got 30 feet or so of street there for and sidewalk for 600. We'll have a sidewalk along here. We'll have 40 feet of landscaped green area. Then we'll have that private road that'll serve these people. And then you have the setback here of the driveway. And this would be a typical 100 by 218 foot lot. I think that's a little bit larger than a half acre lot, and there'd be limited to 11 of them right there. Next slide, please. This is our up here in this whole area in here. All these lots would be 80 feet wide. This shows it along what they call a collector road here. Again, plenty of room to park cars in front of our driveways. There was some concern about whether or not our streets would look clogged in here. I think they used an example of Summer Lake. Our streets are wider than the Summer Lake streets. I think the Summer Lake streets are 26 feet. And Gordon will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our streets are 30 feet. But in addition, one of the commitments we agreed to is we would only allow parking on one side of the street throughout the subdivision. Next slide, please. And this is a typical plot plan of all the lots that are over in this area here, again, behind the executive homes, behind the wooded area, and behind the larger lots next to 600. Next slide, please. I won't read all the commitments, and I greatly appreciate your patience in allowing the time to go through this. But in summary, what these commitments say is there's no vinyl on any of the homes in the subdivision. The executive homes will have the sizes that I outlined a minute ago, and they'll have other architectural commitments like no front-facing garages, brick on all four sides. The next commitments talk about brick on the other homes. The next commitments talk about the woodland area and how to be deed restricted so that there's no development. It'll either be a public park or a private park for the community. The emergency access I mentioned is outlined in the commitments, and the town would approve the location and the design of that. There's a commitment that prevents from parking on both sides of the street. There's a commitment that says all the driveways will be concrete drives. There was also understandably some concern about what's this going to be like when we have construction, and we will direct all our subcontractors to not come down a 600, but to use State Road 38. Now, I cannot assure this board that every single subcontractor will agree with that or won't someday come in from this side and come in. But it's true that we're going to engage all these people and they're going to be working for us. So in order to keep working for Horton, just like following rules, like having hard hats and things like that, we think we can put reasonable enforcement so that our contractors will use the 38 entrance to come into it. Additionally,
You do have this full list in your D drive if you want to look at it.
It's on the presentation.
but
And also what he submitted.
and I'll wrap it up here again. There was also concern about traffic coming through town. We'll direct our contractors not to come through town during the rush hours. Again, we may not be able to be 100% on that, but we think we can steer that pretty well. And then the number of lots would be limited to 200 lots, and the lots would have those different sizes that I outlined in the commitments. Next slide. So members of the Plan Commission, this is it's an interesting site. It's between a county road with a very handsome residential subdivision just on one side of that county road. And then you come to this empty field, which has next to it a farm implement store. And then next to that, a field that's for sale against it's called Majestic Waters that sits on an interstate. Our thinking is that this proposed residential use is an appropriate use between that county road and eventually to the Interstate 69. We respectfully suggest that the Woodland Preserve area is an asset that is worth preserving. We think it adds value to our neighborhood. We think it adds value to the community if the community takes it as a park, and it keeps 10 or 11 acres from getting destroyed in a development. Our architectural commitments prohibit the use of vinyl siding and provide the town with concrete renderings of the types of homes that would go in there, so you know what you're going to get, and if it's going to change, they'd have to come to the planning director to get consent. We think it improves the access to 38. We have no interest, none whatsoever, and no part of our plan do we want to change the current access to 38 of 600. But we do think bringing this wider road here and then putting it in this, the entrance here onto 38 does improve the access to 38 above what the current condition is on 600, but we have no interest in changing that entrance. It'll allow development of unimproved site. It'll result in a substantial increase in the tax base. I talked to the school superintendent who assured me that they could handle the students that would come out of a 213 home subdivision. Now it's a 200 home subdivision. So I don't believe that that would be an issue according to the school superintendent. It's much less dense than was approved by the mixed use planned unit development. I think it had 360 or so units in the old PUD. We tried to respond to our neighbors' concerns. I'm sure we haven't addressed all of them, but we reduced the number of lots. We made larger lots, put in larger lots adjacent to County Road 600 West. We've improved the site plan so that we're not encroaching into that wooded area. We've eliminated parking on one side of the street, or we will with our commitments. We've enhanced the landscaping, and we will direct our construction traffic to try to not cause additional delays through the town. With those comments, again, thanks to the staff for working with us on several meetings. They've been very pleasant and very professional, and we respectfully ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Nice job. Questions for Brian on the board?
Does Carol have?
Daryl?
Carol, do you have any questions?
I don't have anything right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Andrew?
Just thank you for the work put in.
As far as the setbacks on the home, I just wanted to know where that line started. But let me get back to that slide.
Is it on the executive lots
Yes,
where there's the private drive?
yes.
I think if you go to slide
Yeah.
19?
19,
Okay, there we go.
and
Okay.
that's why I brought our engineer, so in case I misstated. But I believe what that measurement was from the edge of the roadway of 600 to the front of the house would be about 115 feet.
Okay, so that adds that 100. Okay,
And then off of that private drive, it's still 25.
Yeah, that private, yeah, does that say 20? 20 foot private, yes.
But it's 25 feet off.
Oh, yeah.
So the lot line actually starts out there by the sidewalk.
Mhm.
So that 40-foot landscape buffer is on the lot.
Yeah, and I
But it'll
think we
be
had
within
talked
a-
about if that would be included with the HOA or if it would be the private owner who takes care of it and maintains it.
Our view would have the HOA
Would be-
maintain
So
it.
there'll be an easement. on the
Yeah.
plan.
Mhm, yeah.
Okay.
But
That's
it
what,
would be on the property.
because otherwise we'd be worried about consistent maintenance of it.
As long as it's in the easement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Let's see. So there was a comment made like the landscaping won't look like this when it's installed, but it will be installed per the UDO. Like the plant sizes will be based on the UDO
Yeah, there's a minimum caliper for the trees.
and height of evergreen. So it'll be based on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And the County Road 600, is that a sidewalk or a path?
It would be a sidewalk.
Okay.
Cause it is a collector road, and so those are 5-foot sidewalks on either side with like a good sized grass lawn.
Okay,
They could do a trail if they wanted to.
sure. Okay. So the density is you mentioned the density is 2 units per acre. But it seems like it's maybe like 2.05 units per acre.
I think it's actually 2.06
Okay,
to be exact.
so, I mean, I guess that's close. I mean,
That's pretty close.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so there's a comment in there about park impact fees and the commitments.
Yeah,
Go
go back to the woods.
Okay.
The park has the option of accepting that woods into their system.
Mhm.
Then they would grant, Horton a credit for what they would put in there against the impact fees. If the park chooses not to accept that woods into the park system, then DR Horton would not get that credit. Obviously, they're gonna put some trails in there for the homeowners association, but in that event, it will not be a public park.
Right.
And one thing I wanted to note on that was just critical. Scroll down, that will eliminate that parking lot on 600. So if that becomes just a amenity for the subdivision, that parking lot will go away. We've had that conversation.
I agree.
So that was one of the concerns of the residents in the prior meeting was having a parking lot over there and nighttime activity, criminal activity, et cetera. No way to police that, understand that, but I'm pretty sure the comments from the park is they don't want to accept that, therefore it's going to stay in the homeowner association, therefore there won't be a parking lot there. Now, there could be, you're gonna have to scroll, I don't know if I can show the other side of the woods. There's an entrance.
Is this one okay?
Yeah, Brian, put your green pointer on that center playground right there. They've got a little entrance in there that you can come into the park, so
Yeah.
DR Horton could put a parking lot in there if they so see fit for their people. Or just have an entrance for the trails, they could just walk into the woods there,
Yeah,
come
we,
back out.
we kind of show where it could be right here or right there.
And this would be parking for the residents.
For
to
the
go there
residents.
To go use the
Right.
park area.
I think our thought would probably be there wouldn't be parking because we would have a trail entering here and then access here from our sidewalks and trail. We'd hope people would just walk to it.
That does eliminate, we had a lot of questions, concerns from the last meeting with that parking lot. I'm pretty confident the park is not gonna accept that.
So the commitment 6 says the developer shall receive a credit. So there should be something in there. If the town accepts the 11 acres, then the developer shall receive a credit.
Okay.
Otherwise, they don't receive a credit.
That is certainly the intent.
Okay, well, I think we should put,
And we have no problem,
modify that.
we have no
Number
problem
6.
modifying that.
Yeah. And number 5 should say. Number 5 says there shall be no more than 2 points of ingress and egress to and from County Road 600 West and the executive. I think that should say from the executive section,
I agree.
right? Just while you're fixing stuff. And then I just have a couple more.
That's
and I'll be
fine.
finished. Number 20 says ponds built shall be constructed so that it holds water. It's kind of vague. I think it should say holds water at the design normal pool. Because it could have some, just to be clear.
About design elevation.
Sure, that's fine.
Design elevation?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're fine with that.
Um,
What number was that, please?
number
20,
20,
Brian.
Oh, thank you.
just for some, I mean, I'm sure that's the intent, but just for clarification. And then what is the zoning request, SF3?
SF3.
What's the minimum width of SF3?
Width, I want to say it's 50 or 60. I don't have it in front of me.
Well, if it's 50, I think that commitment number 22 should say a minimum width of 60 feet.
Okay.
I'm fine with that too. I know that.
I mean, your product probably won't fit on a narrow
Yeah.
lot, but just so that you don't have 50 by really long lots.
I understand.
Keep the minimum square footage at 7,500 and the minimum width at
So it's
60.
at 60. And that was on number 22.
22, and then 23 covers the 80-foot lots, and then I don't know if there's, I didn't see if there's something in here about a minimum width on the executive
I believe it is
that covered.
the.
If not, they just need, if you're okay with adding something like the designated executive lots will have a minimum width of 100 feet and a minimum depth of 218 or whatever you have drawn.
Yes, I think that,
Can we specify that?
yes, we could either add it in 17 or just add a new one, and we're fine with either way.
Oh, yeah, because that's the minimum standards.
Yep.
17 is.
Yeah,
You
so
wanna
just,
add it to something.
just add the minimum width and
Add
depth.
the
Yeah.
And so that's 100 by
100, yeah, it says 100 by 218.
218.
That's, is that fine?
Yes,
Minimum? Okay.
It would be minimum.
Did we discuss an entrance or signage?
Well, they do have, a signage packet in the commitments that are on your G drive. The, there's one that's a large entrance one, I'm imagining that's the one for 38, and then the smaller totem one is for 600.
Exactly.
Yeah, so item 4 talks about. And then there's exhibits E and
Okay.
F. So,
Do you want a copy of it? You've got it printed, Jenny.
I would like
Okay,
that.
but it is in the G
Okay.
drive commitments PDF.
Thank you.
So that's the one on 38, and then the smaller one is
Oh,
on
okay.
600.
And that's
Yes.
mentioned in the committee.
That's okay.
That's all I have.
And Carol, so Carol, have any questions?
Carol, did you have any, thing?
No, the only thing, other thing I was thinking of is if there is not a parking lot, or even if there is for the wood to have bike racks.
Oh, bike racks?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Like where the trailhead enters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or in the, your parklet area, I don't know my pointer, but at that northeast corner.
Where the 10-foot path comes in.
Yeah, where the
Yeah,
path starts
I was
to
gonna
enter
say,
the woods.
Maybe we'd be fine on adding a commitment to install bike racks at the, what would be the northeast corner of the wooded area.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Carol.
We might even have, minimum standards. I know we have minimum bike standards for commercial. I've never checked to see if we have any for residential. We didn't get at any yet. So it might have a certain number that's recommended to install. So did you want me to go into staff
Should
now?
go to staff recommendations,
And then do public
go to
comment?
public comment, so hear everybody.
So the 5 bullet points that I have haven't changed since, November. In essence, sorry, I'll get there in a sec. The proposed rezone fits into both our 2018 comprehensive plan and our I-69 plan, which shows these areas as a residential use. As Brian stated earlier, the PUD is no longer an allowable zoning. We are under contract to update our comprehensive plan. But essentially that's a residential style zoning. The I-69 plan also reflects that, there is a possibility of executive style housing in that plan as well. There's a lot of points and objectives within the comprehensive plan that's fit, such as diverse housing stock within one development, the access to green space, open space, encouraging conservation of green areas. And then also the conceptual layout is pretty consistent with our applicable standards. Until we get to primary plating, it's not technically required, but it's pretty close to what it would be in primary plating. But we'll get down to the nitty gritty if it goes forward. And then lastly, the rezone is not injurious to public health, welfare, or safety. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that or the objectives within the comp plan or the I-69 plan. But these points haven't changed since our last meeting with the petitioner.
Good.
Okay.
Great.
Real quick, I just wanted to ask for proposed commitment 12. You had mentioned up to 24 different styles or 20 to 24 different styles of homes. And that says a minimum of 10 different floor plans, up to 5 different elevations of homes. I'm trying to,
If I said 24 different styles of homes.
or 20, it was 20, I thought, but when I saw 10, I
I
didn't
think
know.
I
if
was
there was-
talking there about the number of lots, how we went from 36 on one side down to
Okay,
29 lots. If I said,
yeah,
Oh,
and that
sorry.
could have been my misunderstanding. That's why I just showing clarification. Thank you.
And I'll just let this sit on the site plan slide.
I think for the last, excuse me, from the last meeting, we just addressed quite a few concerns that the residents have there, particularly with the style of home, traffic. setback on the executive homes where the two entrances were. The woods is gonna stay the same. I think they've added a lot of additional buffering and plantings around to help eliminate some of those concerns, so. You know, it's a good fit for that area. It's gonna give good buffering from what happens in that next lot, if and when that does happen. I'm not saying it's which way it's gonna go, but just a lot of things change over time. The boards change and people's attitudes change, so keep that in mind. So I'll entertain, can I have one meeting, please? Thank you. We'll entertain questions now from you folks. Do you have any questions, concerns for the board or D.R. Horton or the staff? Please come forward, sir.
My name is Adam Green. I'm a resident of Foster Ridge Court, which is across 600 from the proposed development. I have some questions. I don't know if they're really for the developer or for the town. In terms of, there's a couple things. One is in terms of 600, the way 600 is now, there's barely room for 2 cars to pass. And if there's a school bus, it's really one, you sort of have to pull over and put your wheels on the grass to let the school bus go by. And I think with the additional traffic that this development is going to create, I think that would be a cause to want to have that road upgraded to at least a real 2-lane road. And in addition, there's no real drainage on that road, and there's obviously no sidewalks. And so I know the developer is committed to putting a sidewalk on one side. Now, I assume that that sidewalk will then end at the end of their development and it won't connect down to 38. So it doesn't, you know, that doesn't really help that much. So the question is the town gonna be willing to upgrade their 600 there, or is the developer can be coerced into it, or how does that work?
They'll be required to upgrade that road as part of the development. Or they'll pay us impact fees and we'll do it ourselves.
Because it's not in their commitments or anything.
Well, they have the option, impact fees are required for every building permit that's pulled.
Right.
So,
But the town isn't obligated to use that money to upgrade the road, are they?
I mean, it would be a typical area. We would do it around a project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then the other question is with the entrance, there's going to be a new entrance that they're building onto 38. There's going to be supposedly some kind of road that's extension of 146th Street. It's going to connect onto 38 someplace, which it's not really clear where. And so with all of that, with all of the increased intersections there, has anybody investigated or planning to investigate any type of traffic light, traffic circles, turn lanes, or something to improve
That
it?
is way down the road.
Well, it's not because they're gonna build the development.
No, it's not. It's immediate.
Okay,
I mean,
we're not gonna build a road. It's gonna come to us. If that does happen, it's gonna come below Foster Strands Ridge area and probably go through the Bain Welker field
okay,
to come up through there.
but I'm just talking about 38. I'm not talking about what they're gonna do with 146th Street. But just in terms of signalization and things like that.
I think there's a plan around about a 600.
That's on
Yeah.
NDOT's timeline,
Not
whether
on
or not
NDOT?
they do anything with 38. And from what I've heard, there's been a lot of, projects, false starts with 38, doing any sort of improvements to it. But what
And the
they-
town is just waiting for someone else to do it. They're not involved in that planning.
That's a state highway.
No.
So,
So this entrance during primary plating or construction plans, they'll have A cell, D cell passing close to
Yeah,
it.
it'll have to be to standard,
Yeah.
whatever that is listed as. Along those lines.
So- So there's no information about what would be done to 600, if anything, to improve it. Or 38 to improve traffic flow and have turn lanes or signalization. That's
There
not,
won't be a signal at 38 entrance. There'll be, as Kyle indicated, there'll be passing lanes, there'll be decel lanes to come in there. That's very common to do that. And Horton will do that when they install that entrance up there.
okay, but how come it's not on the plans?
No.
They don't have a plat plan drawn yet. This is just a preliminary drawing of how the layout's gonna be. They'll come back to the planning board with an exact engineered drawing of all the trees, setbacks, sidewalks, curbs, radius cuts, sides of ponds, drainages, easements, and all that. This
Okay,
meeting really is just to get a zone from ag to SF1.
right, but I mean, it's just questions that come up for the people who live there in terms of, you know, do we want to, you know, we would like this thing to be part of an integrated plan and part of, you know, not just sort of drop it in there and then just say, well, maybe the state will come and do something, who knows?
Well,
You
we'll
know,
do
I
as
mean-
much as we can, but again, remember, it's a state highway.
And then the other question is, in terms of this path, they show, I don't know if on their drawing, do they show a segment of this path that would eventually connect up to the bridge over the interstate and down, I assume, into the center of Pendleton? And the question is, does the town have any commitments to try to actually accomplish that? If somebody spent a lot of money building that bridge over 38, over 69, that runs along 38, and then the question is it's really money thrown away because there's no connection on each end to anything. So,
If you see where the sidewalk stops in front of Van Walker, when the next phase of that lot develops, then that developer will run that sidewalk on down through there.
right, so
We're
basically,
trying-
but it has to be an integrated thing. It can't just be like, well, we'll wait, you know, wait till somebody comes and buys that land. It could be 20 years from now.
I don't think the town's in position to run that sidewalk all the way down through there with the funds we have.
It's
Not
pri-
even a town,
it's private property.
private property.
It's
Denise?
To your second question about the trail along 38, we do have a 2017 bike and pedestrian plan that guides the development. So any development that takes place since the establishment of that plan forward, they have to, and we as staff have to assure that any path or trail that's been done on that plan is implemented during the development process. So in phases, as development correctly as Mr. Pritchard stated, as it develops going eastward, the trail system will be required to be developed. as well.
So basically, that'll never get connected to downtown because there's no new there won't be any new development along some of that because it's already owned by people who have developed it and they're never going to be required to do it.
It's.
Like Bain Walker doesn't have to do anything.
Well, and that would be probably a decision.
But if Bain Walker put a sidewalk in, it'd just be in front of the building. You want Bain Walker to run all the way to McDonald's?
No, I want somebody to do it though.
Who?
Well, the town of Pendleton, the state of Indiana, somebody get a grant to do it.
Well, we write grants all the time, we try.
To your second question about the impact on the traffic analysis, that will take place in the primary plat process. So the town can and the planning commission can mandate that traffic analysis to take place before improvement is started and before that primary plat is approved.
And NDOT has similar parameters. They'll have to get a permit through NDOT as well for that driveway if it goes through. So, but as far as major improvements on 38, no, that it's a state entity. I'm not really sure if there's anything we can do to prompt them to do that.
And the state statute for the impact fee does give us the flexibility to give credit toward the improvements on 600. So even if it isn't designated as a project, statute does allow us to give credit for improvement where we had anticipated to be in a future plan. So we do have means to be able to address those needs.
Thanks for
Thank you.
listening. Appreciate that.
Could all of you speak up? Can't hear any word you guys are saying. It's like two people talking to each other. We can't hear any.
The mic- Lights on?
Yeah. we can hear it.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Gary? Oh, go ahead. She beats you.
I'm Jet Ziegler. I live north of the Foster's Branch additions. So there's 5 of us live in those 5-acre homes right there. So, just so that I'm just clarifying some of the things. So you were talking about the buffers. So the buffers that are down south are 40 feet wide in front of the executive homes. But those across from us are not, if I'm correct. They are also 40, because it was said they were similar, the north and south were. And you said that those lower ones were 40, but these were not quite, they were just similar.
They're greater than 40 feet, actually.
Okay,
At the north side and south side of that end.
I think you're referring to these right here.
yes,
I think that's wider than 40.
Yes.
okay. Another question I had was, Andrew mentioned the different styles of homes. So there's 10 different styles of homes, is that correct? So there's 3 different phases or 3 different sizes of lots. So on those 200 lots that are there, there's only going to be 10 different styles. So that means that of the 11, how many styles will be associated with those 11? How many styles will be associated with the 29? And how many styles will be associated with the 160? Will there be 3 that go with the executive, 3 with the 29, and 4 with the 160? Because I think as residents, that was one of our concerns. We don't want cracker box style homes. They all look the same. And so you were still getting the same style, 200 homes that are very, very similar. And so that's a concern. You know, do the 11 executives get 6? Because they're the more expensive and they're the more custom. And then the 29 where we live, there's 2 or 3. And then the 160, there's only 1 or 2 to choose from. Because that's one of our concerns. All of our homes are different.
I can respond now. or-
Sure, no, go ahead.
That's a couple of things. Your, the commitments actually, there's kind of some overlap. The commitment you're referring to says there will be a minimum of 5 elevations and 10 different floor plans. And then after meeting with the planning staff, we then, if you could go to slide 10, please.
I'm gonna do this so they can hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll speak up. Slide 8, please. We said, in addition to that, those minimums, the homes that would face 600 would look substantially similar to these. And so I think there's 8 different elevations there. So in 11 lots, you could have 11 different homes. If the planning director approved additional 2, you could have 8 shown here, and your UDO also has an anti-monotony section in it, so you couldn't have 3 of these in a row. So I think that's answering your question. And then so these would be the homes that you would see from 600, and then the other homes, of which we've shown a couple of pages of possible elevations, those would be the homes in the balance of the subdivision.
So I'm not familiar with all the terminology. So an elevation is the style of home? The front of it?
These are front elevations.
Okay. So you're saying
View
that
or a view,
the view.
front view or side view.
So the executives views, you would have 8 to choose from, or similar, about
Mhm,
8.
mhm.
What about the other sections?
If we go to the next slide, 10. So we'd have, there's 4 different homes there. And then the next slide, there's another 4. So is there one more of those? So there's 8. There's 8 of those that we've shown as characters of the homes. So there'd be 8 different styles, elevations in a minimum of 8 in the other section.
Or 29 homes.
For 29 homes. No, it'd be more than that. It'd be,
She's talking about the 80-foot ones.
I'm sorry.
Eight,
Yes, I
yes.
apologize. Yes, yes. That's right.
And then how many different styles for the 160?
These are included in that also.
So these are the same homes. So the only different homes you can get would be, you have 2 styles. You have for the executive, and then you have the other,
We have 8
100.
renderings for the executives and we have 8 different homes for the 100.
181.
Yes,
I don't think that's what our new community is looking for. Am I right? I think that's, you're giving 11 homes 8 choices. Nobody's gonna really, no disrespect, but Foster's Branch, nobody will see those 8 homes down that part of the road, and you have 40 foot of footage. The rest of the people, when they come in, they're gonna see 180 homes, all looking similar,
well, let's
181 homes.
let's think about that. Maybe let's go back to one more. Will they really see 180 homes when the vast majority of them are behind this 12 acres of woods here, or 11 acres of woods,
When,
and set back 100 and some feet from the road, and then be behind these executive homes and behind these homes here? So the vast majority of homes is several hundreds of feet. I think that woods, Gordon, is it 700 feet wide? So the vast majority of homes are going to be 2.5 football fields away from 600,
well, and I guess maybe
and none of them would face 600.
and I guess maybe I expressed that wrong, because I think too, our concern was that, the demographics, or no, maybe not demographics, but when people come to our area,
Mhm.
okay, whether they come from the west, east, and I think it was mentioned here too, maybe by Tim or someone else, that the area, how it is set now, we wanted to keep it in that same, I don't know,
I understand what you're saying.
the same look.
Yeah.
And right now, it looks like we're getting 11 homes that are custom. But now the 180 are still the same as they were the last 2 times we've met.
I agree with you, except that we've,
We may not be looking at it,
Yeah.
but I think when people come to the town of Pendleton, they're gonna see 181 starter homes next to our subdivisions. Across, you got Foster's Branch or Fox Run across, you have Jefferson Place across, that are still the custom homes. And so when people still come from Pendleton and they head and see what's happening around Pendleton, they're gonna still see what we've discussed in meetings prior. There's still the starter homes coming on this side. And I have no forms. People have to start their homes. I understand that. Okay, I understand that. And people have to start someplace. But I thought that one of the town's comments was that this was an area that we kind of wanted to keep as is. And we're getting 11 homes instead of an area that is similar to the custom homes that are there.
So I appreciate what you're saying, and I might suggest that first off, I don't necessarily think that homes that will cost at an average, somewhere in the 375 to 400,000 range are necessarily starter homes. I know homes have gotten more expensive. I've got kids that are trying to buy houses, and that I hear those numbers and they just kind of make you blanch. But when you say that people coming into Pendleton would see this, actually, as you look at this exhibit, as you're coming into Pendleton from the west going east, there's quite a distance between here, and it's very heavily screened. And when you get up here, there's 80 feet of width of screening before you would see these homes off of 38. I just respectfully would suggest that I don't believe that this farm field here, right next to Bain Welker and getting closer to the interstate over here, I don't think you're going to get custom homes like you folks have in Foster's Ridge. And I think if you were going to have had that, it probably would have happened. This land has been for sale for quite some time, and we are just coming out of one of the hottest housing markets we've ever had. I just don't think this site lends itself, being, again, near the highway, near Bain Welker, not too far from 69. I don't think it lends itself to the kind of community you have right here.
But are we desperate that we have to sell that and that we have to get rid of it now? I don't know that Anderson, or excuse me, Pendleton is in a dire situation that we have to sell. We have to have that. Are we that bad a shape that we have to have that come in, that we have to? I don't see that there's really, again, 11 houses is all that has changed. Another thing, question is, you had said that you could have other builders come in. Do we know who those builders would be?
Not.
So it,
Those lots would be on an open market and or D.R. Horton lots, so.
Arbor, or is there any specification that you have to have, because some do not build good quality homes. And so who decides who those builders are?
Well, that would be our decision through planning. Certainly D.R. Horton, wouldn't think would sell a lot to Arbor Homes. Okay, and I don't think Arbor Homes is gonna wanna build one of their homes on that lot. That's why we put those lots there.
So are
Those
you
lots are
saying,
gonna sell for a lot of money. Was it 150,
175.
175,000 apiece?
so you're saying, so you could sell it to a contractor and he could put a custom home on there?
Correct.
And if it would have to look like one of those 8 I showed you, substantially similar, or they'd have to come through your planning department and
Have one meeting again, please.
and get
Discussions up there.
approval from their plan director to build it down. So a couple of things would prevent Arbor from buying it. I'm not making this very.
No, and I don't know builders. I just know that we want quality homes there, not just throw up homes,
We-
because
We
it's,
believe those lots will sell, would be worth 175,000 if we don't build. If you buy $175,000 lot and you use the old rule of 4 to 1. So 4 times 175,000 would be, is that 750,000? That's about what the house is, and that's what we think we'll be able to sell the house we built for in that area.
so even those 161, but you said those are 375 in today's market.
I'm just referring to the 11 lots.
Just the
Not
11
There's
lots.
11. And I understand that 11,
We're trying to protect
Those-
those 11 lots for everyone on the west side.
but why only, I guess I don't understand why, I'm sorry if I'm doing it. But why only those 11 is my question. Why are you protecting
As
those?
Brian said before, no one has come to Pendleton or even the Gaines property to the east, any home builder, since that property's been for sale. Whether it's this home builder down here, a $250,000 home or $1 million home. You got industry, ponds, campgrounds, and an interstate surrounding it. And I don't think there's no $7 million homes in there. That's why nothing's ever happened out there. Particularly on either one of those lots, properties. The Gaines property in particular goes all the way down to the interstate down there. And in conversations with them, it's probably gonna be commercial retail in the front, townhome or apartments on the bottom, at some point along the interstate, and then commercial light manufacturing in the center. That's the hardest parts to fill in the middle. So with that said, would you build your $1 million home on an executive lot on the right side?
If I knew that they were gonna be consecutive, they're gonna be homes that were gonna be
No,
similar.
no, no. You built your home on the far east side of that subdivision. And I'm gonna build a manufacturing plant in the center of that lot to build school buses. Would you build your $1 million home there?
Well, hopefully, kind of put it there. I imagine, knowing that you have those homes there, you wouldn't put a bus.
Can you guarantee that? Because we may not be here in 10 years. And these people may not be here in 10 years.
Well, hopefully, we would have people in Pendleton that would be aware and want to preserve.
We understand that, but it's been a long, long change since that property started with Lynn. It's her property.
Mhm.
They tried to develop it for Mr. Bonds. In what, 03?
Yep.
03. So since 03 till today, nothing's been built on that. And it was proposed in 03 for a subdivision.
You know, we were getting that, yeah. Well, I
I'm
mean,
not arguing with you.
yes,
I'm just trying to convince you a lot could happen out there. And I think you'll be sorry someday.
another question I have on 600. Do you foresee people with only one entrance on 38 coming and getting out on 600? You have, again, you're gonna have 360 cars, more than likely, getting
I
out
think
one
we feel the
entrance.
majority of people come in the first entrance instead of going on that radius curve. It's already about enough. 600.
Yeah, I mean, that's what,
Well, they're required to have multiple entrances out, so they have to put another entrance.
Correct.
somewhere.
That's for fire and safety. We don't want to have one entrance in there. So we had a fire back there. We had fire trucks and
right,
stuff.
I understand. I guess I'm just reiterating the idea that 600 is already full. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, this comment is,
Can you state your name, please?
I'm Jane Green. I live out in Foster Ridge. I'm very concerned about the 600 West. It is, I just beg you to really, really think about putting 300 more homes full of people to utilize that tiny little area. It is hazardous. There have been so many near accidents due to the nature of it being so narrow. Again, you cannot pass when a school bus is coming down the road. You have to pull off of the road. If it's just two SUVs on the road, we have to look out after each other. And we're all accustomed to that. We do it all the time. We scoot over, whatever. But when, 300 people are trying to get out of there to go to work and go to school, I just feel like this is not a safe situation. And I think that
Should just have the 11 lots coming up 600.
right, but if it's open up at the front as well. If I lived in that neighborhood and the traffic was backed up waiting to get on 300, I'd hop over to where the line was shorter. And there will be lines coming out of there,
They'll never come all the way down 600.
but they're going to come out. They're going to come out and get on 38 from 600, where we're trying to get out to get on 38. And it's going to be backed up and it's going to be ugly. And there is not enough width. I don't know if you've been out there. Have you been out there with a school bus?
No, I'm not school bus.
Okay, well, come down when the school buses are coming by, because you don't want to, it's not safe to have that many people utilizing that. I'm just gonna leave that here because this is a safety issue.
We'll take Miller. We'll see. what-
And I understand that it's a county road. You have no jurisdiction of the county. I understand it's a state road. You have no jurisdiction of the state. But what you do have jurisdiction is the amount of people that we put in there. And that's a lot of people for that kind of infrastructure.
Thank you.
I know you answered this already, but can you tell me what
Just state your
requires?
name and your
I'm
address,
sorry,
please.
Cassie Tate. I'm at 600 West, so I'm kind of to the north side over by Jet. And so what I can see is where I come out from my home is like looking like this to the entrance to 600
So
on the
your house
top.
backs up to the subdivision right there?
Yes. No, mine, if you come out the subdivision and go straight, we're on that lane there.
Okay,
Yeah, and I guess, yeah, that's where we live. So I see that those two roads are very close. And so, you know, I echo the concerns about the traffic and I won't repeat all that. But I guess I wanted you to repeat maybe what would compel a traffic study, because when I think about now, when I go out for work in the morning and I go to turn right onto 69, you know, it's pretty busy, right? And I come out 600, turn right on 69. There's now going to be several hundred people. I'm sorry, turn on 38. There's going to be several hundred people, right, coming out and turning right to get on 69. If we're thinking that people are headed south towards Indianapolis, maybe. And so I just, with how close those two roads will be, I have concerns with the traffic, and we have the blind curve after 600. It's already a little precarious in the morning. So if you would repeat kind of what the process is for that traffic study, and then what happens when the traffic study shows, hey, this really is a traffic problem, but the planning commission's already approved this. What would the process be for making changes if tonight it gets approved and then the traffic study shows, hey, this is really going to be a traffic problem like we think it's going to be? I guess I don't know who that question was for.
I would assume that if a traffic study was warranted, you would require it in primary planning phase. And then depending on that study, it would determine how those entrances would be aligned, how large they would be, et cetera. That's kind of the only impact I believe they would have.
Okay, because right now, when there's a car sitting on 600 facing 38 and someone has to turn from 38 onto 600, you know, that entrance is so narrow, it's difficult to get the two cars to go together. And even if you said only the folks that are going to be in that like mint green colored area, even if you said all the 160 aren't going to be on 38, if we just said, hey, we're going to assume that they're going to use that other entrance and it's just those homes using 600, it's going to triple the traffic on 600 currently, right? And so as everybody else has said, squeezing two cars onto that road is already dangerous. We've lost several mailboxes already. So like, that's how narrow it is. And so again, so between the 638 intersection and then what now is going to be an intersection between our lane coming out and that lane, you know, they're going to be close to each other and trying to turn the same direction. I think we're going to have some traffic problems. And so I didn't know if we could at this point require the traffic study as sort of a contingent, because it sounds like, well, you know, we got to do this first and then maybe we'll have a traffic study, but you have all these requirements in place. I didn't know if you could put a traffic study as one of the requirements, because I think we're going to discover that the traffic will be an issue.
thank you. Denise, you have-
Just to add that, you know, Hannah Rose is correct. This rezone request it's not an indication that every piece of this layout, you know, will be approved at the primary plat phase. That review is subject to review from Plan Commission as well as our technical review committee. Our technical review committee is a very detailed process. We have our electrical, water, and then also our storm review processes. And we also have a town engineer that will really be taking a look at the layout, the specifics of that primary plat, all the way down to, you know, inches. So how stormwater flow is going to work and you know, runoff and so forth. So there's a lot of details that will take place at that point in time. And if the engineer does determine that that impact fee for that traffic impact fee or traffic impact study is necessary, warranted, the Plan Commission can definitely make that as a condition of the primary plat for that to be conducted.
But it can't be in place
before the zoning's approved, with the requirement.
It could be, it could be a piece of the commitment that is offered by the developer.
So I would just ask the council to request that from the developer, you know, ask them to say, we'll do a traffic study. 'Cause I
Well,
think that's a huge piece of.
that all the time, that and along with this town's commitment on 600. How deep we want to go. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous today. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Gary, I think you were next before somebody jumped on you.
Gary Brammer, 6228 West Foster Branch Drive. Mr. President, board members, obviously a lot of work has been put into this plan since we last met. And obviously Horton has come a long way towards our side. But I do have some questions, and maybe even can help with something up here. You know, it's obvious the owner wants to sell. I would too if I was the owner. It's obvious the town and the park would like to have the impact fees. You know, we maybe already have that money spent. But I have a question as far as the green space acres. 24 green space acres. Did that include the 11 for the woods?
No.
So 96 acres, take out 35 acres, leaves us with 61 acres. 200 homes. We are now at 3.3 homes per acre rather than what was originally 3.14. So you're kind of going backwards on that. You're cramming more people in. Am I correct?
No.
Because you talk gross, I talk net. And that's we'd like to have the figures in net. So we can understand that. Because that's important. Because as it figures, 61 acres, 200 homes would be the 3.3 homes per acre.
I appreciate your math. I'm not caught up to where you go ahead. and
Okay.
finish your vote.
Okay. I appreciate the extra landscape. In reality, the landscape is to hide their product. We got the same promise from the junkyard. We'll landscape all the way around. So it's nice. We certainly want it, but you know, I don't know. Is this the best fit for the area? We can do a couple things that will make a lot of people happy here, because there's good points brought up tonight. I understand there has to be 2 entrances for this neighborhood. That is not our problem. That is their problem. We can close this off. None of these houses come to 600. We can have these houses go back into the neighborhood so that this subdivision puts no more traffic on the 600. Because you keep hearing that it's unsafe, it's unsafe, it's unsafe. So let's go ahead and close this. They all come back to their second entrance or their first, but the 2 entrances are there. Their responsibility, not ours. And although they have come a long way here, let's make those houses go out into the neighborhood as well.
So you want to integrate the expensive houses, the executive homes with the standard homes?
Sure.
I want to be upfront. No one's going to pay $175,000 for one of those lots. We didn't. I paid the most money for a lot, I believe, in Foster's Branch. And it was less than a third of that. No one's going to pay $175,000. And if those lots are stayed with Horton because they can't sell them for that price, what happens, because they've already told us they don't have custom home plans. So that's a question I have to ask as well. If they can't sell for $175,000, is there a calendar on that? Do they have a year to sell those? Or do they have to start backing down the price? Would you pay $175,000 for a half acre on a county road? I wouldn't, and I don't know who's going to. if we look at the four gateways into Pendleton, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but if we look at the four gateways, we come in Pendleton Avenue. We already have a D.R. Horton development on Pendleton Avenue. If we look at State Road 36 and 38, those areas are pretty well developed. There's not much room out there for development. If we go to the south and come up 9 to Pendleton, we already have the Hunsinger development. So the Hunsinger development and the D.R. Horton development still have plenty of lots left. I'm not seeing what the emergency is to sell this to them. We can come in from the west, you have several nice houses on 38 before you get to Jefferson Place, before you get to our neighborhoods, before you get to Fox Run. There's only one area left, folks, for Pendleton. And it's this area that we're talking about, this land and the land across the road, and then land on the other side of Bain and Welker. That's the only area left for really nice development. So what is the hurry to put 3.3 homes per acre? Again, where she made a good point, someone made a good point. They're all gonna look alike, just like they already do. So I just, maybe we can put the brakes on this a little bit. And I will argue the 2008 comprehensive plan, the land use, objective 1.4 says encourage residential development that reflects surrounding residential character and intensity. 3.3 homes per acre that all look alike does not reflect the surrounding residential character and intensity. Final thoughts. I won't be up here all night, I promise. But the 146th Street extension was brought up and kind of dismissed pretty quickly. But as original, let's see, it's going to come through here. What's that do to that neighborhood? Are we going to take these homes away from these people so that we can put 146th Street through there? Don't have the answer for that. And if this is such a great idea, we've had 4 meetings. We had a meeting at the library. We've had 3 meetings here. And not one single person has stood up and said, let's do it. That's great. Everybody's been against it. If it's such a good product, then why aren't people lining up to support it? We've always said we want residential growth in the area. We just don't want theirs. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Sir?
Sorry. I'm Brian Stommel. I live on 600 West, 7207, 600 South, 600 West. I was just wondering about the retention ponds because I live right next to the creek that runs down right along my property. And I didn't know if the retention ponds were going to drain into that creek because it's already overwhelmed and eroding real bad.
Or do you want me to?
Yeah.
Well, they're going through the woods that do that.
Like right
well,
here.
the-
Yeah. I live right here, so.
Go to the
There's
woods.
a retention pond or a creek that runs right along the property. And it's overwhelmed right now,
Right.
so.
Gordon Chrysler, Stepworth and Associates, 7965 106th Street, Fishers. That is a regulated drain along there.
Yeah.
So that will be our outlet point for that southern pond and the northern, or the pond in the north as well. Any flows that are going to that drain right now are going to be greatly reduced to a release rate that is much less than what's going there now. If there's any downstream improvements that impede or good drainage for this, those will have to be looked at and improved. If the pipe underneath 600 is collapsing or it's just not in good condition, that will have to be improved. So
Well, the creek's not had anything done to it.
yeah,
I've lived there since 97. It's never had anything done to it, so it's pretty bad shape.
yeah, and we don't want that pond to, back up,
Yeah,
and surcharge all the pipes any more than you guys want to see it,
yeah.
not be
But
improved.
I
So,
mean, you get a heavy rain, it's.
oh, sure.
And they'll have to work in conjunction with the county drainage board as well for those ponds and numbers, calculations for runoff.
Okay. Thanks.
That's in their pitch, right?
No, you're fine.
Hi, Becky Wilson, 6071 West Foster Ridge Drive. Couple questions, I guess. On your HOA, I had mentioned last time a question about if you would have regulations regarding making any of the homes rental properties if they were to sell. I was curious if you guys had discussed that. And then also, this is the last 180 days of real estate transactions in Pendleton, Indiana that I printed before I came. We've had 3 sales recently in our neighborhood ranging from $500,000 to $675,000. Was curious in looking at your executive plans, if you guys had thought about, turning things into half-acre lots and putting executive houses in the whole thing. If you consider, if you're gonna put 3 houses at 300,000 and you do 2, you're still gonna be looking at similar money. So I guess I'm just thinking, why do you want it to be the same on all sides of town? So right now, currently in Carrick's Glen, there's 16 active listings for DR Horton Homes. And like I said, we had 3 sales in our neighborhood in the last 180 days, ranging from 500 for the smallest up to 675. So I 100% believe that there's a market for the larger style executive homes. And I don't know why you can't put it in the entire neighborhood. Why does it only have to be those 11 lots?
Thank you, Becky.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can we hear about the rentals?
Yeah.
I'm really curious about that. I think that was a great question.
Just a minute, Brian. I'll let her speak. I'll let you answer some of the questions. Go ahead, ma'am.
My name's Janice Stamper.
You stand in front of the mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Janice Stamper, and I own the property right beside this drain right here. I live right here. And I'm concerned about this pond back behind my woods, right here. And like Brian, I'm concerned about the drainage on these ponds into that drain. And I want to know right here by my woods what your buffer zone is supposed to be, like right here and behind my woods. And I also want to know these 11 homes you've got right here. This lot right here, I want to know how close that comes to my property line. I own both sides of the drain. So my property line's right there, and I want to know how close that home is going to be to my property line.
Yeah, concerning the drainage again, we'll be complying with all of the county standards for release rates and, any sort of dredging or cleaning up of that ditch that needs to be done. And we don't want to flood our own pond and flood our own sewer system or, storm sewer system. So that's got to be a clear outlet. It's got to be in good condition in order for us to drain to it. Any sort of improvement that needs to be done to that drain, we'll have to do it. Concerning the buffer around it, where you pointed just
It
east.
goes all the way around, it goes all the way down my property and all the way back
Sure.
across. Like a
So,
hill shape.
yeah, right here, this is all green space right here. So
Right.
those existing trees that are on the Urbon's property are gonna remain. We don't have any intention or desire to
My
cut
trees
those.
run right- My trees run right into that.
Sure.
So
Um,
what's the other?
and then the buffer here, I don't have that exact distance right here, but it should be 30 to 40 feet.
my
Just
property line?
right, a green space before you get to the lot line of a home. Then you have an additional side setback to the home itself. And then adjacent to the pond, again, that pond is conceptual, so depending on the grading from where the bank is, we want to keep trees all around that pond, not just on your property, but.
That pond being there, I've got two small grandsons,
Mhm.
and they are getting to the age where they want to
All right.
cut the woods out.
Sure.
And I don't want a pond in behind my property.
That's
If
the
I
nat,
wanted a pond, I would put it on my property.
yeah, that's the natural drainage pattern of this entire area. I mean, there is some coming to there's a small ditch here that there's some water coming there, but the majority is coming to this legal drain right there, and that's.
Did you say at one time there was gonna be like, did you, at one time, was there gonna be a playground area back in that end?
In the woods, or are you talking about down here?
I thought at one point, excuse me, it was like right back up in here.
Yeah, I think at one point in time, we had a gazebo and some benches of some sort. That's been moved more centralized north of the pond, right here. So the only thing that we got proposed right now is a trail that wraps around the pond from this cul-de-sac, goes around, and again, that's conceptual, so. Wooded area, nice pond, makes a good amenity for walking. I understand your concern, obviously, with the grandchildren and all, but from a drainage and engineering standpoint, this is the place where our ultimate outlet detention would have to go.
How large are safety ledges or within ponds? How wide?
Carl, can you help me there? Is it
I think
six
it's-
foot above and 10 foot below, or 10-10?
It might be 10 and 10.
Yeah, you've got a maintenance ledge above normal pool.
Right.
And then a safety ledge 1.5 feet below normal
Right.
pool, which is,
How wide is that? That one that's supposed
it's
to have
6 or 10,
6 or 10.
yeah, before it get to the steeper slopes down to the.
Right, yes. And
Like-
those are required for code anyway.
Yeah, we have a new drainage ordinance, so it
Mhm.
follows.
All right. Brian, before you answer your questions, I think a couple strong bullet points have come out tonight. Obviously, one is the traffic width upgrade, or this is the road on 600. How the town's gonna address that, or D.R. Horton is gonna address 600 for traffic flow, or widening it, or both. The other one obviously is the traffic study going on to 38 for the entrances. I don't know how far DRs went with that. Or the town has went with that. We haven't got to planning yet, which is the next step in doing that. There are a lot of concerns. I think Brian's wrote those down tonight. In a combination, we've got 2 members absent. I'm not sure we want to vote on this tonight as a whole.
So this started, do we have some kind of timeline we're up against? Do we have to make a decision by a certain time?
It's a reasonable time
Okay.
and it started in November. They're entitled to a recommendation to the town council. You can't sit on it forever. October, I'm sorry. Yeah, October. It's.
All right.
And to clarify, we're just providing a recommendation to town council.
Correct.
This board doesn't make.
Yes. And if I could comment about 600, and Rusky and I have talked with them about that roadway. It'll have to be improved per our code, one way or another, whether that's they put it in and they get an offset on their impact fee for building permits, or they pay the impact fee and the town does it. But part of all developments is improving the roadways around you, and that's what those impact fees are placed for.
That's different than 600 south.
Well, we didn't have impact fees on the, that's like.
And that actually had more traffic.
Yeah, we get, I drive down the grass all the time.
That's right.
So I think if that would have been developed under this code, with these road impact fees, that would be, you know, included within that plat or within that agreement to rezone. But we didn't have those at that time. So about 600,
Well, and so to, I guess, to talk about the traffic study,
Sure.
any result from that traffic study, would that have a bearing on whether this is a appropriate rezone? I mean, that. I mean,
More bearing towards supply approval.
No, I think it would be more towards how the traffic flows through the site and if that needs to be recalibrated. So, you know, this kind of U shape, if that needed to be something more gridded or something like that, with the entrances different for safety reasons, that's all I can really imagine it would be.
And again, just to reiterate, the anti-monotony standards have been updated. So this is completely different than the Carrot Glen. So there would be a lot more frontage variations. Even if it's the same floor plan, you're not gonna know someone's floor plan because the fronts are completely different.
Right. And again, like Brian said, if there's, you know, major differences in any building plans that are submitted, or if they have a new style home, anything like that, that can come to the planning department office. And if we're not comfortable, authorizing that to be pulled as a building permit, it'll just be somebody else.
And I had asked about additional colors because I know DR Horton has their relationship with James Hardy. At least that's what I saw on the website, their kind of exclusive relationship. And the pre-painted stuff only comes in so many colors, but you can get the boards that you can paint. So can there be a few more colors added to that scheme to help with that anti-monotony? Because some of those grays, even though they're different shades, are all gray.
That is one of the options within the anti-monotony standards, but it is only one, it's not required. If there's a different variation that makes it non-monotonous. If you want to commit to that, that's up to you. There was quite a few colors, I think, in the ones that were shown.
Okay.
So with their commitment to having it be substantially similar to the elevations that were shown here. But I'll let you speak to that if you'd like.
Brian, maybe like.
Sure. I'm Lee Phillips with DR Horton, 9210 North Meridian, Indianapolis. To your question about the siding, we will be offering a wide range of colors. Specific to the Joanna Gaines collection, I can't say whether they will be or not, but we will be offering a wide range of colors. And in addition, which this hasn't necessarily come up yet this evening, traditionally, we have been a spec builder where we have made all of the decisions. Part of this neighborhood, we will be allowing customers to make quite a few decisions on the exterior, the brick, and some interior with cabinets and paint and things like that. So it will be a mix of both home designs that we select and a mix of designs that customers select.
And my other question that blends with the anti-monotony. As far as windows, will there be a variety there? I know with the anti-monotony standards, we ask for that, but can there be more than just white on the vinyl? Can we have black or tan, just to break that up as well, instead of just the grids or no grids?
I don't think that I can answer that question tonight.
It's just something else that helps break that anti-monotony.
Yeah, we will
Break up
follow
the
the standards. Your standards, I think, do require grids or certain square footage, and we obviously will adhere to all of those standards.
I just think aesthetically, those things make a big difference, and then it addresses some of the things that were brought up.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Brian, do you have anything or?
Yes.
Well, first off, thank you again for the time. Couple of responses. The concern over traffic, that's a understandable concern. I do think that the traffic affecting 600 is just right at this area, and we believe that most of the people will use coming out here on 38 because that's a long straight shot. You can see it right there where they'll have good visibility to get out on 38. But perhaps maybe to address that concern, we would add an additional commitment that we would agree to provide a traffic study to the planning department and the planning commission along with our submission of our preliminary plat. So not wait for the planning department to direct it or the engineer. We'll just make a commitment now to provide that at the time of platting. So we'd add that on there. And then that traffic study will say, well, you know, here on 38, you ought to have some decel lanes. You ought to have some traffic calming device. I don't know what it'll say, but it'll have some suggestions. It'll have some suggestions on how to orient this entrance here so that it has the least amount of impact on our neighbors to the north here, their lane. So that entrance may not be there, may be a little bit south of there. I don't know where that is, but that traffic study would address that issue. The articulate woman at the end mentioned about 3 sales, and I think I wrote this down, 500 to 675,000. Horton believes that these lots and the homes that they would build on there, they believe they'll sell those between $550,000 and $700,000. They wouldn't have agreed to the commitment to build the homes that I've shown on there if they didn't believe they could build those homes and sell them. They wouldn't buy this and wouldn't agree to develop it in this fashion. So that's consistent with, we're not surprised that you're selling homes in that range. In fact, I assume there's homes in there that cost more than that. But we think on this dead end road here with this private lane on these nice sized lots right next to an 11-acre wooded area with a big green space behind us, Horton thinks those are very, very saleable in that $550,000 to $700,000 range, and they're going to look like the ones that we showed you.
Exactly. Did you not put that?
I'll address that. Horton doesn't believe that those homes will be saleable over here on a flat farm field that's next to an implement dealer, and it's going to be next to uses that would be adjacent to the interstate. They don't believe that those homes or these homes are saleable over there. They do believe that homes 370,000 to 400,000, 425,000 are saleable over there if properly screened, and that's what they plan on doing. The rental commitment, the rental home thing is an interesting phenomena, and I'm sure the town's lawyer would agree. You have trouble restricting people like all of us from renting our houses. If my wife and I, buy a house for our youngest daughter and we rent it to her to get her going, we don't want to be restricted from doing that. But on the other hand, you don't want a neighborhood full of rental houses. So what Horton has done in some other communities, and it's worked, and we're willing to do it here if the Planning Commission so desires, is they do 2 things. They limit rentals to a minimum of 1 year, and most importantly, that each rental has to get the approval of the HOA, the homeowners association. Horton's going to control that homeowners association until we're way into this, and they're going to want this subdivision to stay, and the homes in it to stay in a good condition that allows them to sell homes. We're willing to add those kind of commitments, but to just say we can't rent out any homes, that just doesn't work, folks. It's first off, you're violating the Fair Housing Act, and secondly, if I own my own home and I want to rent it to somebody, like you own your own home, you want to rent it to somebody, you ought to be able to do that. But we're willing to add that additional commitment to address that. The one, yeah, and we can put it in our bylaws too. But the one gentleman said there would be no sidewalk along this area, and that is true. But when Horton's finished here, there'll be a sidewalk all along here, and there'll be a sidewalk here, and then there'll be a sidewalk or trail out to 38. So it's like any other steps. This will create an area of sidewalk along 38. It's an area that would allow folks here in Foster's Bridge to get all the way over to 38. And then someday, when this site develops, you'll knit those things together like I suspect you have in other areas of town. But originally, you end up building some sidewalks to nowhere. But that's how you start. And when this is done, there will be a sidewalk that would allow these folks to get from here all the way over to 38. So to sum that up, we'd be willing to add an additional commitment to do a traffic study prior to submission for plating. The traffic study would of course be shared with the Planning Commission and the town's planning department. We'd be willing to add a commitment that our HOA would have to approve any rental homes. We put that in our bylaws. And I think that sums it up. Thank you.
You
mentioned the 1 year minimum lease.
Yes, I'm sorry. 1 year, 1 minimum lease. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you. And we put in the bylaws, there would be no Airbnbs in our neighborhood.
Any short-term rental, not just Airbnb.
There's Verbo, there's all sorts.
I'm not limited to that, just that brand.
Yeah.
Is it good to like ask one more question?
Just one?
Maybe.
You got 5 minutes.
Okay, that's all I need.
It's been the last question.
Robin Brammer, 6228 West Foster Branch Drive. Question I have on, one question is those 11 lots. You would sell the land for 175, right? I'm just trying to put the numbers together here. But you're saying you would sell a house on that lot for 550 to 7. So what's the real value of the house? Are they getting the lot for free? Or if you take the 550 minus 175, that's not much of a house.
Gosh, Robin, I feel like I'm not, it's my fault. If you could go to slide 7 or 8 or 9. There's the homes we're gonna build on those lots. Now, I don't know what they'll cost, but we think they're gonna cost between $550,000 and $700,000. We did want to have the right, if we get interest from custom builders who will pay us $150,000 to $175,000 for a lot, which if you use the old rationale of 4 to 1, you pay 150 to what's 4 times 150, that's $600,000. So that's right in the middle of what I just said. So we want to build those homes. Those are very profitable homes for DR Horton. They plan on building, but somebody asked us in a meeting at some point, would you consider selling to custom builders? Of course, if they pay us for the lot and we're unable to sell ours, we want to consider that. But the homes are going to look like that. So the home's not going to be free. It's not going to be an arbor home. It's going to be a home that's going to look like that. And those homes are going to cost over $500,000 to $700,000. Does that answer that question?
So you're taking a lot, you're getting a lot less for, and you would sell it for a lot more. You would be gouging, basically. I mean, that's my perception of it, because
I know.
we'll sell it
I mean,
some
how
for
could you
175,
possibly
but
say
if you
we're
let us
gouging?
build on it.
How could you possibly say we're gouging when I don't have any idea?
Is it
You-
gouging something like when you buy something for 40,000? And then you turn around and you sell it?
It's their advantage to build.
Yeah. So that's just point of clarification. I just needed, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, when I can't crawl over people. I'm with her. There should be less homes, the more expensive homes, and it equals out. I mean, there's homes on sale in Summer Lake for $350,000. There's homes down in Ingles on sale for $350,000. Who is going to build a $350,000 home after spending $175,000 for the lot? I don't understand that. And, the traffic wise, the state needs to do a roundabout on that curve, 638, and that should be a roundabout on that entrance for the people in that addition to come out. That should be another roundabout. That's the only safe way to take care of the traffic.
Thank you. Staff, any comments on it?
Yes.
During all the comments and questions, you have any more questions, comments from the board?
Do you want me? Carol, do you have any
Carol,
questions or
she's still there, or
comments?
should leave?
No, I'm still here. I don't have any other questions. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't as well, particularly since Brian and Lee answered those questions there, so. I'll entertain motions for 2023-01 for the board.
Just to remind the board, as Kyle's already said, that you have three options, technically four. You could bump it out another month. But you are making a recommendation to the town council, because this does change an ordinance. You have three possible recommendations: a favorable recommendation, a neutral recommendation, or a non-favorable recommendation. And ultimately, as Kyle already stated, that's in the hands of the council on what to do with the ordinance. Right, and yeah, I would recommend that regardless of the recommendation, the commitments are included.
Correct.
Thank you.
So were we going to go ahead then? And
I'm asking for motion.
for a motion, even though the other two are out?
Well, you could motion to
to
continue.
continue?
Motion continue, favorable, neutral, or non-favorable.
Well, I mean, the meeting has been set for a while. Did we talk about the traffic study at this point? Or
I mean, they committed to file it with the primary
With
plat,
this one.
so. So yeah, any results of that traffic study would be addressed at the primary plat phase.
I mean, I feel like everything was addressed, Tim, in the rest of the committee. Along with some other points that you brought up. I feel like the transition from the one half to the other half to blend into then the commercial property has been addressed. And then with the additional road study and use of impact fees, you can't improve the road first because you have to have the impact fees to improve that.
And you would want to wait till construction is completed on lower lots. On 600, please.
I just have one clarification.
Sure.
Looking at commitment number 24, the total number of lots shall not exceed 200. Is there somewhere in here where it says that no more than 160 60-foot lots, 29 80-foot lots and 11 100-foot lot? I mean, does it break it down to that level somewhere?
Yeah, there's a
I
slide.
think
had that.
23 does.
Yeah.
that on
23.
Approximately 20.
Right.
The approximately 29 lots?
I believe it's, we can clarify, but I believe it's addressed there. and
Slide 5.
Addressed in that the, development would be substantially in accordance with that site plan, and the site plan labels those lots.
Okay.
In that fashion.
I just didn't want it to, you decide you don't want to do the 100-footers and you put more 60s in it or something.
We don't feel there's any way for
No, I think it provides a good transition.
I make a motion to approve with all the commitments. I don't want to read them all. Do I have to?
As amended. this evening,
amended
right?
this
As
evening.
amended,
Both written and verbal.
yes, written and verbal.
That's both of verbal commitments from the town and also from D.R. Horton as well.
Correct.
And those verbal commitments will be memorialized prior to the council vote.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Can I say something?
Carol, yeah?
Yes, I would just like to say that our responsibility has been to look at the proposal, compare it to all of our plans, our comp plan, our ordinances, and to determine that essentially the significant and relative criteria have been met. And I can't insert my personal biases or whether or not I want it in my backyard. And I will second the motion.
All right, Carol, thank you. We had a second. That's good. Okay, could I have a roll call vote, Hannah?
Sure.
Start with Carol online.
Okay. Carol Hannah,
Yes.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes.
Kyle Eichhorn,
Yes.
Jenny Sisson,
Yes.
Andrew Holloway.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, this will go to the town council on the March meeting and not tomorrow night.
March 4th, a
March
special
4th.
date too.
What's the date?
March 4th.
The motion was for approval, but it was
Paperwork.
provided paperwork.
And we'll have a 10-minute recess now. We have one more business item to take care of.
Thank you. Okay, so we have an amendment to the I-69 plan. This is what we discussed with RDC last week. So I took your comments together. We'll start with the new description for the residential development. You can see it there in red. That's the only sentence that I added. I think everything else fit pretty well, as it sat. So it's the southwest quadrant is viable for a mix of townhomes, condos, multifamily, and single-family homes that would be denser near the interstate, less dense as you approach Foster Branch neighborhoods. So any comments on that? And then the rest of it in black is as it was before. So that just kind of takes out the pigeonholing, kind of the exclusivity of just those large lot executive style homes, which if viable, could be a possibility here, kind of as we learned tonight. The larger homes on that particular property are closest to Foster's. If anyone is interested, we always encourage it, but need to allow a few more things in there. And that was the original scope that it was supposed to be anyway, according to the RDC and prior staff. So are we good with that? Carol, are you okay with that? Does that sound good?
I have a question.
Yes,
I'm good. Thank you, Carol. Brown is that Keystone.
That's unchanged.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only change in blob color use, et cetera, is this new mixed use development, which is the red area that's along 69. It's really just the frontage along the highway. So I won't read that whole description there for you. I already see a typo. Thank you, Kyle. But
So is that red, is that the new map?
yeah, it could be.
Because the
or-
red's not really labeled, is it?
No.
No, we
It's
just
this new
decided to make that the
description.
new, to change that now to get away from residential.
Yeah. Well, so
It
we're
could
just
be
adding
multifamily,
more dense.
More
use.
dense.
So you're adding the red language.
Yes.
So the request is to insert the red language.
Yes.
And to
the
update
color
the
on the
map.
map.
And again, those colors and, I mean, those are just, they're not perfect lines. They,
Right, yeah, high level conceptual, so.
right.
That'll also, I mean, the residential district can stay at it as it is, really, and that can just be an overlay on top. If someone wants to put townhomes there, multifamily, excellent. But if they also want to do something a little heavier, flex space, hotel, a retirement, medical style living space, they can do that kind of in that area as well. I also didn't want to, take away that in what would probably be a more suitable residential area, for maybe some, well, really anything. What Cheryl had mentioned was something like, is it West Clay or Saxony Village, where they do have some townhouse multifamily, attached single family, detached single family, but they also have some retail uses in there. So they'll have like a restaurant, but it kind of like looks like it's part of a house or a multifamily. It just blends in really well. So I think those kind of peppered throughout. If someone was interested in doing that, that's also something the board could entertain. Or if it's just kind of centralized along the highway, that's a possibility too. So it kind of really opens this up for a little bit more than what the plan was saying, and it gives us the ability to have, Jeff, what is it called? When you have like facts behind a rezone, like a reasonable justification, that's the word, thank you. A justification to do something a little heavier than just executive style residential along the interstate. Yeah.
Need a big mound.
Well, I'm always trying to get away from when people come in and want to develop something, they see it's residential, just go on. Want to kind of open that up just a little.
Right. And so you'll also notice in that description, it says these uses would not be geared towards heavy truck traffic or heavy industrial uses and blend well with surrounding styles of residential living. And then it could also kind of interconnect into the Keystone if Mystic Waters ever develops into something a little heavier, what have you. It could kind of blend with that. But I don't think this is kind of rocket science, and I don't think it's really necessarily creating like taking away from any of the other districts.
Yeah, that goes in the advanced manufacturing, rocket science does.
Yes. I would love that center zone.
Yeah.
I would love a Nassau, plant there or something. But yeah, I think it's okay to do that and have it not take away from, other areas or downtown, which is, kind of the Keystone is a population regulated block. So that way it doesn't kill the downtown. But I don't think uses peppered through here would necessarily be that dense to where we would have to have concern of our rooftops and population. So if you're okay with that language,
We got to vote on it, just do it.
you do, yeah.
By public comment, just for the record.
Lynn, you have any comment?
Lynn?
You are the public.
The public.
The only public that wanted to stay. Yes, and since I represent real estate that is north of 38 there, and you're closer to the interstate, and it seems to me that the closer you are to the interstate, the more you need either business, some mixed use like that, because quite frankly, most people aren't going to build $1 million homes right on top of an interstate.
Really?
Really?
I'll be darned.
Where I lived when the Rivers moved here, I lived nearly half a mile from the interstate and I could still hear it. So, the way things generally develop, I think that's probably a much better idea than what you had. I mean, unless it's totally rural out there and people will build next to an interstate, but you're too close to town.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Carol, any questions on your end?
No, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
And from RDC meeting last week.
They seem to also mirror.
Yeah,
the
and
sentiment.
that was their impression that when this was being developed is how it would be used anyway.
Correct.
It just wasn't kind of, articulated well. So
That's
we're just
what I
really
think of.
correcting how it should have been
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
So visually now,
Right. There's
shows.
justification.
That's right.
Or if a use comes in that, you know, we deem fits it. And if you look at the other districts too, there's not heavy single-family residential use along large stretches of the highway. I think there's some up north of the Keystone District, but that's much further away from the interchange itself. So.
Carol, you
that's all I
good?
got.
I'm good.
What else? I'll make a motion to approve the I-69 interchange master plan, southwest quadrant updates as detailed and stated.
Second.
Second, all those in favor of the I-69 master plan as detailed, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carried. Hey.
We gotta do the minutes.
Yay.
Oh,
We
yeah.
gotta do the minutes. Give us a second.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
It's-
Oh, I second.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see them. I don't think I can vote. Did I see them?
They should be on there now.
Yeah, they're in the drive
You have to
now.
pull
You
down
can
to
access
refresh.
it, but. And then Denise says you don't need to sign the favorable, Carol, how, you say Kyle?
I'll do it,
Kyle do it.
Change it.
I'll be back Friday.
Full we present.
How's the snow?
Yeah, well, they're presenting it.
Not very good, but we skied.
Not very good up north as well.
She never forgot mine too.
There's no snowmobiling going on.
Aw, where are you at?
I know.
Michigan.
Yeah, but we skied today. It was okay.
We'd be looking for a motion.
It's gonna be 50 tomorrow.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second to approve the minutes as detailed?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of the minutes as submitted tonight, please say aye.
Aye.
Carol? You don't have it?
I didn't see them, so I'm gonna abstain.
Four to vote.
Yeah.
All right, 4 ayes. Motion carries. That's it. Marissa, Denise? Counselor?
No, sir.
Hopes? Any turn.